Welcome to the deep dive. Ever feel like you're just constantly putting out fires, without actually solving the real problem?
Or you're aiming for something, but, well, things just keep getting in the way.
Exactly. Well, today we're diving into something that might just change that perspective. Systems thinking.
Mhm.
It's all about seeing how things connect. Your team at work, maybe your health, even big global stuff.
Yeah, precisely. The world isn't just like separate bits and pieces.
Not.
It's this dynamic web, everything interacting.
Mm-hmm.
And systems thinking gives us, well, a kind of map, a way to understand those connections so we can stop just reacting.
And start actually influencing the
That's
patterns.
the idea. Move beyond the surface.
Okay, and for this deep dive, we're looking at Steven Schuster's The Art of Thinking in Systems.
Right.
What I like about Schuster, him being a teacher, is he makes these potentially tricky ideas feel, well, doable, accessible.
He does. The book kind of walks you through it, doesn't it? From the
Mhm.
absolute basics, what is a system,
Mm-hmm.
right up to using it day to day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So our mission today.
Let's try and pull out the absolute core ideas from
Mhm.
Schuster. Give you the tools to look past that simple cause and effect stuff.
That linear thinking we all kind of fall into.
Yeah, and really get a feel for the deeper dynamics happening in, well, almost any situation.
Okay, let's get straight into it then. When Schuster talks about a system, what's the core definition we need?
Right. So Schuster says a system is basically a group of things. They're interconnected, and they show their own kind of behavior pattern over time.
Behavior pattern.
Yeah, and often the system itself is kind of the cause of its own behavior. That's the crucial bit. The connections and the self-generating behavior idea.
Okay, so it's not just a random collection.
Exactly. Think about shells on a beach. Just a collection, right? They don't interact in a meaningful way, don't produce some collective pattern.
Just
Right.
shells.
But contrast that with, say, all the established businesses in a town.
Oh,
They
okay.
interact, they compete, they cooperate, they rely on the same customer base.
Hmm.
The whole business community does something as a collective behavior. That's a system.
That makes sense. The relationships and maybe the overall function matter.
Precisely. It's those interconnections and the purpose that make it more than just a pile of parts.
So why bother thinking this way? What's the payoff for us?
The real benefit. It helps us escape that cycle of quick fixes, the Band-Aids that don't really solve anything long term.
Right. Dealing with symptoms, not causes.
Exactly. It pushes us to think about the ripple effects, the long-term consequences, and importantly, to focus on the relationships between the pieces, not just the pieces themselves.
That feels like a big shift from how we normally tackle problems.
It is. It's a different way of seeing. Traditional thinking often wants that one simple cause for every effect. Systems thinking says, hang on, it's usually more complex, more interconnected.
Like, instead of always mopping the floor.
We look for the overflowing tap.
Got it.
And to find that tap, we need to understand the three main parts of any system. Schuster lays them out as elements, interconnections, and the function or purpose.
Elements, interconnections, purpose. Okay, let's break those down. Elements first. What are we talking about?
Elements are, well, the things in the system,
Hmm.
the actors, the parts. Could be people on a team, machines in a factory, data points,
Mm-hmm.
even intangible stuff like rules or beliefs.
So the visible bits, usually.
Often the most visible, yeah. But here's the thing, just listing the elements doesn't usually tell you the whole story. The system is more than just the sum of its parts, remember. How they connect is often more revealing.
Okay, so that leads us to interconnections. That's the critical part.
You got it. Interconnections are how the elements influence each other. The links, the relationships. It can be physical flows like parts on an assembly line.
Or information.
Very often, yes. Information flows are huge. Think about a simple teacher-student relationship. The elements are the teacher and the student. The interconnection is the flow of information, the communication, the relationship itself. If that connection is weak, well, learning suffers, doesn't it? Even if
Yeah.
the teacher element is brilliant and the student element is willing.
Yeah, that makes total sense. You need that connection. Okay, and the third part, function or purpose. Is there a difference?
Schuster sort of uses function for non-human things, like
Yeah.
the function of your heart is to pump blood, and purpose more for human systems where there's intent.
Okay.
But basically, it's about what the system does. And here's a key insight. A system's stated purpose,
Mm.
well, it might not be its actual purpose.
How so?
You have to look at the behavior. What does the system consistently produce? A government might say its priority is education.
Mm-hmm.
But if funding patterns and policies consistently show something else is prioritized, then the actual purpose, revealed by its behavior, is different. You need to ask, What's this system really set up to do?
Actions speak louder than mission statements.
Absolutely. And sometimes the overall purpose isn't even designed consciously. It just emerges. Yeah,
Emerges.
from all the different purposes of the individual parts interacting.
Yeah.
And that can lead to, well, unintended outcomes.
Like the example you mentioned with high-stakes testing in schools.
Exactly. That's a perfect, if complex, example. You've got all these different actors.
Teachers, students, parents, administrators.
Right. And they each have their own goals, their own purposes within the system. Teachers want good evaluations, maybe job security. Students want to pass the test.
Schools want higher rankings for funding or prestige.
Parents want their kids in those good schools. Policymakers want accountability, measurable results, each perfectly reasonable on its own right.
Yeah. Individually, they make sense.
But when you put them all together in the system, the interconnections, how these purposes influence actions like teaching to the test, narrowing the curriculum, immense pressure. The emergent behavior of the system might actually undermine the broader goal of, say, genuine, well-rounded learning.
So optimizing each part doesn't necessarily optimize the whole thing.
That's a fundamental systems insight. Absolutely. Everyone could be trying their best, playing their role, but the system itself produces an outcome nobody really wanted.
Wow. Okay. So elements, interconnections, purpose. Which one matters most if we want to understand or change a system?
Well, Schuster argues, and I think it's right, that the elements are the easiest to see, but changing them often has the least impact.
Really?
Yeah. You can swap people in and out of a team, but if the way they communicate the interconnections or the team's core goal,
Yeah.
the purpose stays the same, the team's fundamental behavior might not change much.
Oh,
But change the interconnections, how information flows, who talks to whom, or change the overall purpose or goal, that's when you see significant shifts in how the system operates.
yeah.
Those have much higher leverage.
That makes sense. Changing the rules of the game, not just the players.
You got it.
Okay, so we have a better handle on what a system is. How do we actively make that mental jump from our usual linear thinking to this systems view?
I think the absolute crucial first step is learning to tell the difference between a problem and a symptom.
Problem versus symptom.
Our default linear thinking goes straight for the symptom, the obvious pain point.
Right, the squeaky wheel.
Yeah. Systems thinking forces you to ask, okay, but why is the wheel squeaking? Dig deeper for the root cause that's generating the symptom. Remember the flooded floor?
Symptom, overflowing tap.
Problem. Focusing only on mopping. Well, you'll be mopping forever. You got to address the tap. So always ask, am I looking at the symptom or have I found the underlying driver?
Okay, but how do we know if it's just a symptom? Are there clues?
There are. Allhoff and Walczewski offer, I think it's 8 useful clues.
8 clues. Let's hear them.
Okay. 1, the effort you're putting in feels completely out of whack with the results you're getting.
Yeah.
Huge effort, tiny progress.
Been there.
2, the people involved seem like they could solve it, they have the power or resources, but they just don't.
Interesting. Avoidance.
Maybe, or maybe the real problem lies elsewhere. 3, you keep trying fixes, but they fail, or the problem just morphs into something else slightly different.
Right, it shifts around.
4, strong emotions get in the way. People get defensive, resistant, making it hard to even talk about the solution.
Okay.
5, the problem seems to happen in a predictable cycle or pattern. It keeps coming back.
Groundhog Day.
Sort of. 6, this one's a bit weird. There's almost a subconscious comfort level with the problem, like the organization is used to it, maybe even needs it in some strange way.
Wow, okay. That's deep.
7, just general pervasive stress and anxiety around the issue within the organization or a group.
And the last one?
8, the classic whack-a-mole.
Yeah.
You solve one issue, bam, another one pops right up, seemingly related.
Okay, those are really helpful indicators. It makes you think about recurring issues differently.
Definitely. And Allhoff and Walczewski also give us these 10 enemies of systems thinking. These are like red flags,
Yeah.
things people say or do that show they're stuck in that linear mode.
Ah, the pitfalls. What are they?
Okay, number 1, let's just fix it quick. That urge to jump to a solution without really understanding.
Impatience.
Exactly.
Good
2, just put a Band-Aid on it, masking the symptom again. 3, we need the budget finalized, prioritizing the money or deadline over finding the right solution. 4, we must respond right away. Panic mode, reacting instantly instead of pausing to analyze the system. 5, who cares? Just general apathy, lack of curiosity about why things are happening.
Right.
6, we just need more information. Believing data alone is the answer, without understanding the underlying structure. 7, you are overthinking things. Dismissing a complex view because it's uncomfortable or challenging.
Heard that one before.
8. Forget the rest. We take care of ourselves. That's siloed win-lose thinking, ignoring how your actions affect others in the system. 9. We don't want any conflict. Avoiding the necessary tough conversations.
And 10.
10. We will do it this way. Top-down, impose solutions that shut down collaboration and other perspectives.
So many of those sound familiar in workplaces or even families. That quick fix one is so common.
Really is. Think about team morale being low.
Okay.
Quick fix. Let's order pizza Friday. Might feel good for an hour.
But doesn't solve the underlying issues. Bad
Okay.
communication, maybe workload.
Exactly. You treated the symptom feeling down, not the systemic cause. So morale probably dips again next week. And you're stuck buying pizza.
Right. Okay, so we know how to spot symptoms, avoid linear traps. How do we get deeper into understanding how these systems behave?
So we've got elements, interconnections, purpose. Danella Meadows adds 2 more crucial concepts. Stocks and flows.
Stocks and flows, okay.
Think of stocks as accumulations, stuff that builds up in the system. Could be physical, like water in a dam, inventory in a warehouse,
Uh-huh.
or intangible, like the level of trust in a relationship, your company's reputation, the number of skilled employees you have. It's a quantity, a level.
Got it, like a snapshot of how much of something there is. Inflows.
Flows are the rates of change affecting those stocks. Inflows increase the stock, outflows decrease it.
Like taps filling a bathtub and the drain emptying it.
Perfect analogy. New hires are an inflow to the employee's stock. People leaving are an outflow. Rain is an inflow to the reservoir stock. Water usage is an outflow. Critically, you need to ask, what's accumulating here and what's driving the rate of change?
So how do stocks and flows interact to shape behavior?
It's fundamental. If inflow is faster than outflow, the stock rises. Outflow faster, stock
It
falls.
makes sense.
If they're equal, the stock level holds steady, even if there's a lot going through. That's dynamic equilibrium, like that bathtub staying level if the tap and drain rates match.
Right.
And stocks act as buffers. They absorb shocks. A sudden burst of inflow or outflow doesn't instantly change everything because the stock provides some cushion. They also allow inflows and outflows to be sort of decoupled, independent over short periods.
Can you give another couple of examples? Make it really concrete.
Sure. Think about your bank account balance. That's a stock.
Yep.
Your salary coming in is an inflow. Your spending is an outflow. Or oranges growing in a grove. That's the stock.
Yeah.
New oranges growing is the inflow. Harvesting them or oranges spoiling, those are outflows. Even something like your own knowledge on a topic that's a stock. Reading or learning is the inflow. Forgetting is the outflow.
That personal example helps. We often focus on the stock, like our weight.
Exactly. And we tend to focus on managing the inflows like calories eaten.
Or maybe the outflows calories burned through exercise.
Right. But Schuster, and Meadows too, point out we often neglect the power of managing outflows effectively. Think about environmental goals like reducing landfill waste.
Okay, the waste is the stock.
Yeah. We focus a lot on reducing consumption, the inflow, which is important. But increasing recycling or composting, boosting the outflow from the waste heading to landfill stock can be incredibly powerful too.
Yeah, focusing on the drain, not just the tap.
Precisely. Another key thing, flows can often change quickly. You could decide to stop spending money today. But stocks change slowly. They have inertia. That bank balance won't vanish overnight just because you stop spending. This slowness is why they act as buffers, but it also means they show momentum. A system with a large positive stock, like a great reputation, takes time to deplete, even if the flows turn negative.
So watching stocks gives you a sense of the system's history and momentum.
Yes. Systems thinkers watch how stocks change in response to flows. That gives huge clues about the system's dynamics.
Okay, stocks, flows, inertia. Now you mentioned feedback loops earlier. How do they fit in?
Feedback loops are what drive consistent system behavior. They happen when a change in a stock level feeds back to influence the inflows or outflows affecting that same stock.
So the level itself triggers changes to the rates of change.
Exactly. Think about that bank account again. If the balance stock gets high enough, you might start earning more interest, inflow increases. Or if it gets too low, you might get hit with fees, outflow increases. The stock levels is influencing the flows.
Okay, the system is reacting to its own state.
Precisely. And there are 2 main flavors of feedback loops: reinforcing loops and balancing loops.
Reinforcing and balancing. Okay.
Reinforcing loops, sometimes called positive feedback, amplify change. A change in the stock leads to even more change in the same direction. Exponential growth, or collapse.
Like compound interest. More money leads to more interest, leads to more money.
Perfect example. Or a snowball rolling downhill. It gets bigger, which makes it roll faster and pick up more snow, which makes it bigger. It's a runaway effect, up or down.
Got it. And balancing loops.
Balancing loops or negative feedback work towards stability or a goal. They counteract change. A change in the stock triggers a response that pushes the stock back in the opposite direction.
Like a thermostat. It gets too hot, the AC kicks in to cool it down. Too cold, the heat kicks in.
Classic example. It's trying to maintain equilibrium around a set point, or your body regulating its temperature. These loops keep things stable or guide them towards a target.
And systems can have both types operating.
Oh, absolutely. And often the dominance shifts. A system might be dominated by reinforcing growth for a while, then a balancing loop might become stronger and slow things down or stabilize them. Understanding which loops are active and which are dominant is key.
Okay, so when we're looking at forecasts or trying to predict what a system might do, how does this help?
Well, Schuster suggests asking 3 really important questions about any prediction. First, are the driving factors, the things we think are causing the change, actually likely to behave the way the prediction assumes?
So questioning the assumptions about the inputs.
Exactly. Things are rarely certain. Systems thinking pushes for scenario planning, what if things go differently, rather than just one single forecast.
Okay, second question.
Second, even if those driving factors behave as predicted, will the system itself react the way we expect? This challenges our understanding of the system's internal workings.
Like, is our model of the interconnections and feedback loops accurate?
Precisely. Does the model reflect how the system actually behaves, or just how we think it behaves?
A
And third,
Good question.
what's driving the driving factors? Are they really independent variables? Or are they themselves influenced by the system, or part of a larger system we haven't considered? Digging for those deeper influences.
So questioning the model, questioning the inputs, and questioning the influences on the inputs, that's thorough.
It has to be, because systems are complex.
Yeah.
And crucially, we always have to factor in delays.
Delays, right, you mentioned those.
Yeah. These feedback loops, reinforcing or balancing, rarely happen instantly. There are always delays built into the system. Think about a retail store ordering clothes.
Okay.
There's a perception delay. It takes time to notice sales trends. Maybe they average sales over a few weeks. Then there's a response delay. They don't instantly place a huge order, they adjust gradually. And then there's the delivery delay. It takes time for the clothes to actually arrive from the supplier.
Perception, response, delivery, lots of lags.
Exactly. And by the time the clothes arrive based on perceived demand from weeks ago, actual customer demand might have changed completely.
Leading to stockouts or overstock.
Precisely. These delays are inherent in most systems. And the length of the delays significantly impacts how the system behaves, whether it oscillates, overshoots, or finds stability.
And because systems are connected, one system's delay affects others.
Absolutely. That retail store's ordering delay impacts the wholesaler, which impacts the manufacturer. Each layer adds its own perceptions, decisions, and delays. That's how you get things like business cycles, supply chain disruptions. It's the interconnectedness and the delays playing out on a larger scale.
Wow. Okay, it really paints a picture of a dynamic, interconnected, and sometimes delayed reality, much more complex than A leads to B.
It is. It can feel a bit daunting at first, maybe,
Yeah.
but it's also a much more powerful way to understand what's really going on.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Schuster's ideas, what are the main takeaways you hope people hold on to?
I think the biggest thing is to just start looking through the systems lens. Consciously try to see the elements, the interconnections, the purpose in situations around you,
At work, at home.
everywhere. Ask yourself, what are the key stocks here? What are the flows influencing them? Can I spot any feedback loops, things amplifying change, or things trying to stabilize it?
And making that crucial distinction.
Between the symptom and the root cause, always dig deeper. And try to catch yourself and others falling into those linear thinking traps. The quick fix, the blame game, ignoring connections.
It's really about seeing the patterns, the relationships, the dynamics, not just isolated events or pieces.
Exactly. Understanding the underlying structure that drives the behavior.
Okay, so a final thought for everyone listening.
Yeah, think about a situation right now, maybe something complex or frustrating you're dealing with. How could looking at it as a system, thinking about those elements, connections, stocks, flows, loops, delays, give you a completely new perspective? Might it reveal different places to intervene, different solutions beyond just tackling the immediate obvious symptom? That's the real potential here, that shift in perspective,